Right, hello, everyone. Welcome to the ninth episode of the Lit with Kit podcast. Today, I'm lucky to be joined with Counter-Strike commentator, streamer, analyst, and YouTuber Coach Lau, otherwise known as Launders. Launders, how are you doing today?
Good, man. I really like your hair.
I took a leaf out of your book and I cut it yesterday by myself.
Oh, you did? Nice. We
Uh,
shade the sides up.
yeah, I went for like a mullet. Uh, my friends are pretty divided, to be honest. Some say it's not very
That's a good
nice.
sign, actually, because they
Well,
can't all have good taste.
but yeah, in the intro, I touched up on what you currently do, but between being a commentator, streamer, and analyst, how do these things kind of differ? And is there a personal favorite for you?
I think I put an emphasis on being a commentator because it's makes the most money.
Hmm.
So I kind of just prioritize based on that in terms of like where I spend most of my time. And also commentary is the least natural for me. Like I think it's the one thing I wouldn't do for free. So it's kind of been the hardest thing. So I put a lot more time and thought into commentary. And then streaming is something I've always done. You know, it's just something where it's such a nice like home base for your content because you can stream your content and then put it on YouTube after. You can get a lot of outreach on Twitch. You can also just do whatever you want. You don't have to feel like you're making content when you're streaming.
Yeah.
And then YouTube is the repository. Like everything ends up there, and it's also like your time capsule. And I think it's also where I started, so it's got a special place for me. So funnily enough, it's the place that makes the least money. YouTube, it's kind of the roughest when it comes to ads and stuff like that. But there's something really cool about, and I think it's really good for your brand where since the videos are up forever, they always have a chance for someone to see them. But Twitch is very ephemeral. Anything that happens live is just a very fleeting experience. So YouTube is a nice counterbalance to that.
Yeah. You said that, doing commentary and stuff like that was unnatural to you. Like over the years, how have you kind of mastered your craft and gotten better at it? Is it just something with practice, or?
Well, first I got over the idea that you have to be a natural at something to become good at it or great at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to realize that, the idea of having a passion is a pretty overrated idea, that you can make one as much as you can find one. And sometimes you find a passion that you end up hating because you learn more about it. And sometimes you make a passion out of a thing that you never really enjoyed because you got better at it in a way that you didn't know how. So in the process of growing, I've realized that commentary is actually pretty fun. And it's something that I could have just, I systematically was able to like say, oh, I need to fix this. I need to fix this. And now I feel good about it. And I think it was just paying attention to like what was actually the most important part of commentary, like prioritizing the different things. Like, for example, the idea that like, you can have great analysis, but if it takes 4 minutes long, it has no place in a round. So if I finish a round, there's like a bunch of things to say. It doesn't matter what people think about how smart I am. It's just about like, what's the best thing I could have said in that round to fit right before Scrawny speaks again. And then there's the idea that, how you say something might be a little bit more important than what you say. And so to put a specific emphasis on, how good my voice sounds, and that's funny, I had to plug my throat, how good my voice sounds that day and just how clear headed I am so that I'm speaking clearly. Those, just making a list of priorities and then attacking the things that I wasn't a natural at in normal conversations.
In the build up to this interview that I've landed with you, I told my parents and they kind of asked like, who is Launders? And I think personally the best way I could describe you was that not only do you're a content creator, but for, when you watch football, the pundits before a game starts, they kind of go through things. I kind of described you as the Counter-Strike version. But for you, when was the moment that you kind of realized how big esports was getting, or how big esports is? Like, was there a moment where you were like, this is this is a really good profession, or the viewership on this game is crazy? Like, was there a moment where you're like, oh, wow?
I kind of look at that as, like when it comes to, so people always tell you to invest, right? Buy this, right now it's like cryptocurrency, before it was stocks, and now it's a combination of both. Everyone's talking about invest in this. And I kind of look at the way that I got into games and my job as investing my time. So I think when I first started, it was too small. I just really, really loved playing the game. So I played it a lot. And then I made the YouTube channel just to get a few views, not really the idea to get rich. I don't think anybody who had big enough ambitions to want to get rich would have seen an opportunity there.
Yep.
And that was probably 2013 or 2000 whatever. And then the point at which I knew that things were going to grow, I didn't know about all of esports, but I knew within Counter-Strike for sure, was when the arms deal update happened.
Yep.
And that was when the skins got added to the game. I think it was in August of 2013. And I went to Steam charts and I saw the player base, average concurrent player base jump from 20K to 40K. And I was like, honestly, I love skins. And clearly people are playing the game now because of skins. And so that's when I started my YouTube channel. So I did see a specific opportunity, but it was still such a small game, such a small niche at the time.
Yeah. I understand that working in this field and kind of working in esports, there's a lot of opportunity to travel extensively. Which country would you say has been the most welcoming, and which country has given you the best haircut?
The best haircut has to have come from LA. I think LA barbers go crazy. There's just, you can walk in any shop on the side of a street and like sit down and dude will, I mean, it's a very intimate relationship you have with LA barbers, no matter which one you go to. They just do a great job. In terms of most welcoming is actually Thailand. I think northern Thailand especially,
Yep.
just probably the nicest crop of people that I've ever met. I mean, just very like gentle personalities. And one of the first things I learned was like, originally you guys never had a word for no, or just that wasn't a word that was like very common to say.
Yeah, I'm personally not Thai, right? But when I spoke to my friends about the language, it was a bit weird how to say no for some things.
Yeah. So just that carries through into like the culture, I guess. And it's, obviously Bangkok's a bigger city and it's, more like just like another bigger city, but people are still generally, I think, very nice.
Yeah.
So definitely Thailand, honestly, definitely.
That's very interesting. It's not too surprising, I'd say, but yeah. Okay, swapping back to Counter-Strike, but as a Counter-Strike content creator with your focuses on demo review, movement plays, and a lot of tips and general like things to improve your game, what Counter-Strike content outside this realm would you say is most interesting on YouTube?
Outside of gaming, outside of Counter-Strike?
Outside of like the demo review and surfing, what came to mind for me was YouTubers such as Neok with that kind of like Counter-Strike gameplay was kind of like troll gameplay, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think that stuff is really big. I mean, you got like Franz J and like a couple of other YouTubers that have a big brand making, and it's kind of like, this is not meant to sound disrespectful at all, but it's kind of like, if you're going to make content that's far enough reaching, it has to be like a certain degree of lowest common denominator. Like everyone has to be able to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
And like, I know when I make my content, for example, you have to have some level of understanding of Counter-Strike to be able to understand what I'm even talking about, because I'm not going to go through the glossary every time I start talking or whatever. But, funny moments, YouTube, that is far reaching. Like anybody can be able to understand a laugh, or even if you don't know Counter-Strike at all, it's fun to watch. So I think that has a greater reach. And like Super Stidham is another example. It's like, it's got the music, the action, the energy, and it also takes advantage of the competitive scene, which is really nice because it like puts, pro players on display, adds personality to some people by sharing their clips that other people wouldn't normally see. So stuff like that is super cool. It's not it's not what I do necessarily. I mean, I might be like that on Twitch, but on YouTube, I just focus on the educational side of things.
You mentioned Franz J. I feel like I wasn't sure if I was going to add this in, but I've watched you on stream unbox knives and gloves.
Yeah.
Similar to Franz J, you have not too much of a reaction, to be honest. You kind of just, you're just relieved. I'm not quite sure what the right word is.
Yeah.
But yeah. But in terms of your YouTube, some of my favorite videos on your channel, I believe the first video I ever watched on your channel was about Swag's crosshair placement. And I remember trying to replicate that in game, but when I found that, Nova's kind of just wide swing everything.
Okay.
So, but from Swag's crosshair placement to the analysis of device's best performance, do you have a video that you would say you are most proud of?
Yeah, it's actually this random game review I did. It's called Ashen. So it's this Ashen game review. It was just like, I mean, I worked really hard on the script and made sure like my voice sounded really good in it. And it was like the most carefully I've ever done a video. And it wasn't a Counter-Strike video at all. So it doesn't have that many views. It's like 10K views or something like that. But it was the definitely the proudest I've been of anything that me and Nathan have created. That and the Stewieology video, or Stewie's amazing decision making. I made that with the Yahoo Esports a few years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Definitely those three.
Yeah, like I remember. I also saw a long time ago, like the first ever movement tutorial I watched was your video with the Mirage jump, and I kind of recreate that. That was Yahoo on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was on Yahoo. Yeah. So I called it like Launders Jump School or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Didn't help. None of my videos are helping you.
No, they did. I can hit the Mirage jump most times. Nice. But to be honest, like I feel like with the Mirage jump, you only hit it when it's not necessary. Like if it's in a clutch situation, like half the time, I don't know, I panicked in clutch situations. I've been asking you quite a few questions. Are there any questions that you may get on YouTube or stream that is quite frequent and quite annoying?
You look Indian. They don't really phrase it like a question. They just say, you look Indian, and then expect me to respond. That's kind of like, all right, I have an FAQ below the stream. So
I was looking at it just to see like how I could label you in the intro. And then I read your, no, you don't speak Tamil, and you're Canadian. I just want to point out the other day when I knew you're Canadian. For some reason, I thought you were living in the States. So I kind of panicked when you were like, I'm Canadian. In the DM, I was like, oh.
It's no big deal. Wait, are you half Malay, or where are you from?
I'm half Indonesian and half English.
But
Malay
cool.
is really close though. It's interesting you got it, that close.
Yeah. I mean, my family all lives in Malaysia, so I've been there once when I was 12, but I've never been to India. So my family is mostly Indian, but then none of them live there anymore. I don't know when they moved, but everyone's in Malaysia now. Yeah,
that's kind of similar to my family. Like the English side kind of either live in England or they lived in Hong Kong. And then it's just my family's just kind of all over the place.
You ever been to Hong Kong?
Yeah, I lived in Hong Kong for 10 years.
Damn, dude, that's my favorite city in the world.
Is it?
Yeah.
What do you like so much about Hong Kong?
It's the vibes, man. The vibes are so correct. Yeah, it's because like it's like the feeling of you walk out, it's like always kind of raining, and it's like it's dark, and there's like a lot of like neon lights and stuff like that. It's just very like, it's almost like very cyberpunk. And sometimes you're going out at night, and it's like, or you're out like on the coast, or you're between the mainland, between like Kowloon and like the island, and the city's going crazy, and it's like just the feeling of being out there. Sometimes a little bit too hot, but besides that, I think the vibes are correct. I really, really love that. And the people are cool. Yeah, exploring that city, it feels like the video game world that I'd love to be in most of the time, basically.
That's very interesting. I feel like a lot of people would rather say something more generic, such as Tokyo, or just something.
I've been there, so maybe, but
I really like Tokyo. That was like one of my favorite cities I've ever been to.
Okay.
But speaking on the topic of exploring and, kind of visiting places and hanging out, out of all the professional players you've met, is there one that's most enjoyable to hang out with or most fun that you've met?
I used to play with Stewie. He's really chill. I been hanging out with the OG guys a little bit when we were in Denmark. Yeah. They're all super cool. Like I think they like the way that they present themselves on social media is like how they are in person. So that's cool. Like Alexi, Montu, and everybody. They're all like super chill. Everyone thinks Volda is like an asshole because he's just like, he's like a good looking guy with like a sharp chin, but he's actually the nice, like I actually went to OG. I was like outside my hotel, and then Volda was outside with his like brand new Mercedes Benz. He's like, yo, you want to go barbecue? I was like, sure. Then we went to like his brand new house, and like the whole OG boot camp went to go barbecue his house. And then we ended up walking his dog before we left. And it was like just me and him. And then we were just talking about like sustainability and the future of the planet and like all this stuff that was on his mind. That was really like, and he was just, and I don't think anybody would think that about Volda, that he's out there thinking about like greenhouse gases and shit like that. But he really does. He really is.
Yeah. So apologies. So as someone who, this is just a transition, but as someone who's previously interviewed other people, I'm kind of interviewing right now.
Mhm.
Are there any small tips or suggestions for people such as myself to take away?
I think the number one tip I give people for doing interviews is to, it's kind of like a fake it if you make it. It's like I always say, I told this to Scrawny because I get him to try to do more roles within esports whenever we're doing things. He's like always just a play-by-play caster, but you know, I've always worn so many hats. I try to get him to do other things, but when he did interviews, I said try to jump to the middle of the conversation right away. So if you come into a conversation with someone and it's formal to kick things off, then it's probably going to be a very slow grind to get to the point where they loosen up. But the it's arbitrary how quickly it takes for someone to loosen up. If you meet someone that's super cool, then you can just be friends with that person like instantly. You meet them in the corner store, they say something funny, then suddenly it feels like you're best friends. And so I always tell people to don't treat it like a formal engagement, because then it's going to take forever for the personality to come out. Just jump to the middle of the conversation so it's more conversational, and assume that, of course, both people want to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I think the great part about an interview is that you're both signing up, for a certain amount of time to talk to each other. So both people want that to be a good experience. So it's already easier, to get to that level.
Yeah. I kind of I had a kind of a period in my life where I was just not doing too much. So I kind of started this podcasting, where it was just, to be honest, I thought it'd be nice just for me to look back on conversations that I've had. I was really interesting was the other day. I was thinking about, I wanted to, go further afield than my friends. And I only messaged you on Twitter, and I wasn't expecting a response or anything. And I had a big fanboy moment when you said, yeah, let's do it. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I like doing podcasts. I mean, who doesn't like to, you're just gonna, if I interview somebody, I've had so many players that have like dodged my interviews. I'm like, man, you don't want to talk about yourself for 15 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm going to do this whole conversation for you. I have all these things prepared to talk to you about.
yeah.
And all you have to do is be there and just like answer questions. And, so I always enjoy doing interviews and podcasts. And so that was an easy decision. And I think it's really good they took initiative. I respect people who take initiative first and foremost.
Thank you very much. This is kind of a different question, but I was a bit confused with it. I'm a pretty big Counter-Strike fan.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm going to be completely honest, before there were big tournaments, or especially blast tournaments, I would check Twitter to see your prediction. Because for some reason, every time I checked, you always got it correct. And then
Okay.
I told my
Must
friend,
have been only half the time.
no, like I swear there was a moment for like really long. Every time I checked, you got it correct, and I was like, I don't know what this is. And I told my friend, and he was like, "All right, next time Launders predicts something, we'll bet $10." Right?
Okay.
So I bet, and then I won it, and then
Let's go.
I was like, Launders is gonna, he'll always get it correct. And then the next one, it was like, I don't know. I think you picked the underdog or something. I can't remember, but when you make predictions, is it more like a gut feeling, or do you actually like look at you analyze it and you just kind of, you have vision?
I think that's one thing for when it comes to predictions in anything with sports. My philosophy is recency matters a lot. So head-to-head matchup and like your last few games, like, head-to-head from like 3 months ago, it doesn't matter at all. Like, you try to put yourself in the shoes of the team that's playing. They're not really going to think about 3 months ago so much as like if it happened within the last month, where like that's how your team feels, and that's a very fleeting feeling. So recency is a big thing. And then I try not to overthink like too many things. Like if I say, okay, this team played close against a worse team yesterday, that's a negative. And then the other team that's the favorite, you know, you know, uh, you know, played close against a better team the day before or whatever. Sometimes it balances different based on the match they played, whether it was a win or a loss. So I just go off of, who's trending upwards and who's trending downwards, as opposed to who's the favorite and who's the underdog in that specific matchup.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then remember that, like, no matter how hot you are at predictions or how good you are at analysis, it's still sports. Like, you're still only going to shoot like 55, 60% max,
Yeah. I know that you predicted Navi I saw your Twitter, predicted Navi to win Cologne.
Mm-hmm.
With LAN coming back, what is the difference between online and LAN? Because I never fully understood how
Mm.
it's different for players.
The pressure is really immediate when you go onto a stage, and then you have to, like, literally, you know, the AC, it's like so much colder in a big arena room than it is in home. Like it's about these little things. So I don't want to over, I can't underemphasize that. It's about the fact that you're setting up on a different table,
Mm.
and the seat height is different, and you don't have, like, you know, Shiro doesn't have his IKEA Marcus at home. That was generally something I was thinking about. He's like, it's that little bit of uncomfortability, and then you're set up every setting the same, but it's not the same. When you go and set up your Counter Strike on someone else's PC, even if you have every setting the same, it doesn't feel the same. So
That's very true.
it's those things that actually make the biggest difference. And when you sit on the stage, it's it's like the Stanford prison experiment. Like, you know, as soon as you're in a role, you have this, you feel the pressure a little bit, you feel different. So when you're on the stage, it doesn't feel like the online match, because it feels like once you're done the match, you have those experience those emotions in front of a camera, in front of your teammates right beside you, in front of your opponents who might talk to you afterwards. So everything just feels a little bit more real. So even when there's no crowd, there is, like, definitely a little bit more pressure. I never rate LAN pressure over you know, the preparation that went into making a team good. I would never do that. Like, I would never thought that Gambit were just going to fall off a cliff when it came to LAN.
Hmm.
But I'm not surprised it's made at least a little difference, because I think that's where it is. Like, it's that feeling of not being at home.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Thank you. So, all right. But yeah, we've approached the 22nd minute, actually.
Mm.
I know that you have stuff to do soon. So I will, once again, thank you for joining me. I think I will wrap up here. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for joining me and kind of, you know, engaging in this. I've learned a lot. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Stay tuned for next time.
And stay lit with Kit.